The U.S. Secretary of War has said that America is winning the war against Iran, and in a week, the U.S. and Israel will have complete control of Iranian skies. Speaking at a press conference, Hegseth said that more fighters and bombers are arriving daily to West Asia, adding that the U.S., not Iran, would decide when this war gets over. Hegseth also claiming that Iran had no intention of negotiating a nuclear deal with the U.S.
America is winning. Decisively, devastatingly, and without mercy. Under the direct command of President Trump, the War Department unleashed this operation early Saturday morning, just 4 days ago, which means we need to remember two things. First, we are only 4 days into this. Metrics are shifting, dust is settling, and more forces are arriving. It's very early. And as President Trump has said, we will take all the time we need to make sure that we succeed.
Hegseth also gave an ominous threat to Tehran, warning that more and larger waves are coming. Hegseth also confirmed that this was the first sinking of an enemy ship by a torpedo since World War II, in fact, he said.
Yesterday, in the Indian Ocean, and we'll play it on the screen there, an American submarine sunk an Iranian warship that thought it was safe in international waters. Instead, it was sunk by a torpedo. Quiet death. The first sinking of an enemy ship by a torpedo since World War II. Like in that war, back when we were still the War Department, we are fighting to win.
Hegseth also claimed that Iran will not be able to shoot the current volume of missiles and the U.S. can sustain this fight. He also announced that the U.S. would use precision gravity bombs in Iran, which they have in unlimited stockpile. Top U.S. General Dan Kane, meanwhile, announced that the U.S. would soon begin to expand inland and strike progressively deeper into Iranian territory. Kane also confirmed that the U.S. has hit more than 2,000 Iranian targets and more than 20 Iranian naval vessels.
This progress has allowed CENTCOM to establish localized air superiority across the southern flank of the Iranian coast and penetrate their defenses with overwhelming precision and firepower. We will now begin to expand inland, striking progressively deeper into Iranian territory and creating additional freedom of maneuver for U.S. forces.
Further, Hegseth revealed that the person who led a plot to assassinate U.S. President Donald Trump in 2024 was among those hunted down and killed in the strikes in Iran. Hegseth also revealed that the U.S. has moved over 90% of troops on American bases out of the range of Iranian fire.
Before we very publicly built up offensive combat power, we quietly ensured that our defensive posture and power was in place. And as we built up offensive combat power, we moved the vast majority of American troops, over 90% of Americans that were on our bases, what we say off the X, out of the range of Iranian fire.
And let's go straight across now to our correspondent, Susan Tehrani, who's with us, has been tracking those developments very closely in the United States. Susan, first of all, we have been getting our viewers the key takeaways from what Pete Hegseth has said. Huge claims that the U.S. and Israel can actually achieve dominance over Iranian skies in just a week's time. Help us understand what exactly the estimates are looking like as far as the Trump administration is concerned. We've been also talking about how the Iranian drones have been increasingly becoming a headache for the United States. So what exactly do we know about any further updates that are likely to come in from the White House from here onwards?
So just a remarkable update from Pete Hegseth and General Kane speaking about the fact that at this point they have air superiority. And very soon they believe that they will have air supremacy over Iranian skies, which would mean that both U.S. and Israeli warplanes would have free range to be able to fly over Iranian skies, not only without being detected, but without being in harm's way. They also noted that what that does is once they do have that control of the Iranian skies, they will have a better understanding of where the missiles and drones attacks are being launched from. To a certain extent, they said that the attacks from Iran have decreased by 85% since the first day of the war. And they expect that to decrease in the coming days, considering the fact that when allegedly these missiles and these drones start to launch from certain areas inside of Iran, they project on the radar that the Americans have a control over, and they can, and before it's launched, they can detect that and then pinpoint exactly that location where they can attack. So pretty extraordinary stuff that they shared. It appears that the administration is on the same page regarding that, although despite the fact that President Trump said it might take 4 to 5 weeks, and despite the fact that the Secretary of War said that they are well ahead of schedule at this point, they are not providing any kind of timeline about how long this operation is really going to take. But we are talking at a time when Israel's airspace is really being overwhelmed by missiles right now, and of course Lebanon as well. And we're getting reports that Hezbollah has of course entered the fray as well, making things very difficult for the Israeli sides in the region.
Right. Susan, you know, the one question hanging in the air is what exactly is the end game here? What have you been able to gather in terms of the assessments that have been made by experts in the United States? What really is the sentiment also looking like? Because as of now, it looks like the strategy remains unclear. And at the same time, you know, Donald Trump talking about how tankers will be escorting the assets across the Strait of Hormuz. How feasible is that plan as well is another question.
Well, Iran's navy is to a significant degree, and this is something the Iranians admitted themselves, has been diminished and destroyed. 11 ships have been sunk. We just saw a recent one also far away from the Persian Gulf being attacked with a torpedo. So the president is confident that the American Navy in the days to come and the hours to come can provide a safe haven and safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz for some of the ships who may be reluctant because of retaliation from Iran. In terms of the strategies, Hegseth and Kane made it very clear that they will continue until this operation is finished. It's not going to be a half measure, and that is to destroy Iran's missile capabilities and prevent Iran from attacking not only U.S. bases and Israeli bases, but also neighboring countries, which it has indiscriminately effectively done, attacking civilian infrastructures along the Persian Gulf. Now, what the end goal is, the question that many are asking, and I think this is the one, Molly, you're alluding to, is what happens to the regime? Will the regime fall? Will someone in the regime take over that will be perhaps more accompanying to the United States and Israel? Or is there someone from the outside that's going to come? Those questions it's very soon to really predict, but I think it's clear at this point that this is a regime change operation. You really can't put it any other way.
Right, but you know, we earlier also saw those statements coming in from Trump, talking about, quote, how the next person could be as bad as the previous leader. In a sense, that is what he said. So what exactly does the U.S. administration really hope to achieve then? You know, like you're saying, of course, the regime change has been the larger set objective.
The United States has been clear on what it wants to object with Iran. It doesn't want Iran to be able to attack its bases and forces across the Middle East region. It wants to dismantle Iran's proxy groups, and it wants to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. And when those talks failed, and it was clear that Iran was not going to negotiate in any possible way with Abbas Araghchi, Jared Kushner, and Steve Witkoff, the United States realized that there is no way that these negotiations can continue without some kind of kinetic strike. And I think they've been pretty clear on that sense. In terms of why Trump said that, he was being realistic, I think, to leveling with the American people that any scenario could happen without trying to give away what the day after plan is. Now, administration insiders that we've been in touch with say that the United States does indeed have a day after plan, but it's not talking about that, and they don't want to prop up a single person or a single entity, whether it's outside of Iran or inside Iran, in fear of appearing to interfere in Iran's domestic issues. So that is a cause of concern for them. But it's hard to imagine that they don't have a plan for the day after, despite some reporting from the Democrats that we've been hearing.
Indeed. And Susan, we also told our viewers about the latest in terms of how the efforts are being made to ensure that the U.S. troops on the bases, as far as the region is concerned, are kept away from becoming direct targets. So tell us more about those attempts that are being made.
Yeah, before the attack started, the United States says that many of its non-essential members at the consulates and at the missions across the region were evacuated, although not all. And one of the reasons for that was because President Trump admitted himself that things moved so quickly and so fast that they didn't expect this operation to take heat in the first 24 hours the way it did. As far as U.S. personnel, the United States and CENTCOM, they're issuing statements saying that most of their troops have been evacuated from those bases, except emergency troops. But unfortunately, we did hear that 6 service members did die during this operation, at least in the first 100 hours.